when it comes to the Parliament buildings that are so iconic, certainly for Canadians, if you're in Ontario, that very often ends up being a school trip. So you'll visit Ottawa. The tour of the Parliament buildings is going to be a part of it. So it's sort of etched in our minds. But when you see it done in just stunning photography, right? Like architectural photography, that is almost a constant. I don't care who you are or what you do for a living. If that is your coffee table book, it could be literally any city, any sort of series of landmarks. There is nothing more beautiful to me in looking at structures. And when you think of the Parliament buildings, which I think the original ones I want to say were like 1860 or 70 in there somewhere. But there was a fire, just like any place you go to, certainly in Europe, it's like the fourth, reincarnation of that facility because invariably there are fires. And back in the day, they weren't really that great at stopping them. So we have what we've got, which are just beautiful structures and ones that have to be occasionally you can't say refurbished, that wouldn't be the proper word, but if you're going to completely gut them and redo it because of shortcomings that they obviously didn't have, in 1920 something, you're talking about an extended period of time where you will not be able to see the inside. So, William McElligott, Willie, I believe. Am I calling you Willie?
Yeah, call me Willie, sure.
Call you. I say Willie McElligott. Our family's Irish, so I'm like Willie McElligott. He owes me $10. I'm pretty sure he does. But you have done like this book. As soon as I saw it, my brother, who's a historian and mostly Canadian history, he's getting this for his. Well, it doesn't have to be a birthday. Who cares now? He's getting this book because he will absolutely adore it. Even just for those that will see Twitter later on in the day are going to see the background, and they should know this is one of your pictures. It is a tremendous subject. And I think very close to all Canadians. But this is a marvelous book. I'm just curious, Willie, the understanding of doing this book, where does it start?
Where did it start?
Yes.
Yeah, I have the date. And it was September 26, 2016.
Oh, wow.
I got asked to go to lunch at the parliamentary dining room in the center block of the Parliament building. And there were 6 people there, including myself. And I'll just name them and what they were. It was sort of, I was nervous going to this meeting. I mean, I've been a photographer for 35 years at that point. But anyways, Heather Bradley, she was the Director of Communications in the Office of the Speaker of the House of Commons. There was Liette Fortin, who's a conservation architect, who would become the project editor and essayist in the book. There's also Alan Turamura, who was a conservation architect and at the time, the president of the Royal Architectural Institute of Canada. David Monahan, historian and past curator of the House of Commons, 2002-2014. And Diane Bryden, former Director General in Access for the Library of Canada and responsible for coming up with the title of the book. So we had a meeting and basically they had seen my first book. My second book was in print and I wasn't really thinking of a third book at this time. And they wanted to know if I would be interested in being the photographer of a book that they would like to do on the Parliament building.
Yeah, amazing meeting that must have been. And yeah, you talk about nerves just because you're around some of the heavyweights of the Parliament buildings and so forth, and it's such a treasure. So you meet in 2016. Is there a time frame, William, that you take certain pictures, or do they ask you what do you think, or is it a combination of we'd like to do this, this, and this, and from an artistic point of view, which has been your career in photography, obviously you had a big say in what was taken and what wasn't. How does the give and take work, considering there's so many different people on that almost advisory crew?
Yeah, what happened is Liette Fortin, who is the editor of the book, she had already come up with a plan that she would have 10 people, and it ended up being 16 experts in their field, historians, conservation architects, curators, write chapters. So there would be 10 chapters in the book. So I had a sort of a script to follow, only being that it was up to me to pick what I wanted to photograph. And basically, I had free reins on what to shoot according to the text.
Oh, very good. Very good.
And with that, I brought along with me a team I had of people that I had done the other books with. And one was Peter Hanley, the designer. Another one was, notes here, Elizabeth McPhee. She was the original English language editor. And then Norma Lou Brown, my partner, was a digital editor, and I brought the French translator, Louis Saint-Andre, with me. Because at the time they didn't have a publisher. So they asked if I would be the publisher, and because there were so many writers, I said, no, but I think I could probably find one. But that took a while, and ended up finding ECW Press out of Toronto. Yeah. And that was led up by Jennifer Smith, who was the editor for press on the book.
Well, it's when you start talking about architectural photography, like to me, I just think it's such a great subject because, the lines in those photographs, it's like when you go to Europe and you go into the magnificent cathedrals, and from the moment you go on and you look up, it's just the lighting lends itself. Of course, it's when you're in a cathedral, it feels very enlightened to the reason why you're in there in the first place. Yeah. But it just so attractive. It's so gravitating. It's like looking at when you go to Barcelona, you see all the strange Gaudi structures, and you can't take your eye, even though it's this, I'll be honest, the strangest things that you've ever seen in your life. You cannot take your eyes off it, and it lends itself to be such a great subject. I'm just curious, in taking the photography side, the architectural side, was there a mix of that at some point in your career? Is there a reason why this subject for you?
Could you just, what's the first part of the question as far as the architecture mixing with?
Yeah, so do you need to have a understanding of architecture, or is it just the artistic side of taking the picture? Is there a marriage between the two? Why did you gravitate towards this subject?
Yeah, you basically need to understand the skeleton of the building, and the skeleton of the building is responsibility of the engineers and the architects. My favorite architect is Spanish, and it's Santiago Calatrava. I don't know if you know that name, but they told him he couldn't build the buildings he was doing. So he went back to school. He was a full architect, became an engineering, and then he wasn't questioned after that. And everything that he built was according to the human body. So to me, architects are the artists of the 21st century. You have to understand architecture to become a good architectural photographer. And I know that myself, a lot of times when I'm walking around, I always try and scout the subject with an architect first. And I never bring a camera. I mean, I have my phone, but I never bring a real camera, if you want to say. Mm-hmm. I find the camera hinders me from seeing. And basically, I approach it that way so I can slow myself down. 95% of the work in the book I did on a tripod. So you're able to basically slow your mind down and basically look at an image, because these days, even 40 years ago, the world is moving at such a fast pace, you don't really see anything. It's a blur. And the whole idea with still photography is to capture the reader's attention, and hopefully that he'll see something in there that attracts him. And you never know what it's going to attract the reader. So that makes the book.
Oh,
yes,
sorry.
Absolutely.
Well, the name of the book is Portrait of Canada's Parliament, ECW Press. There's an early May release date coming up. So we're so happy to have you here with us early, William. So when I've been to the Parliament buildings, thankfully, when they were open, I lived in Ottawa about 15, 16 years ago. So I had a chance to tour it. A lot of people won't get that opportunity because of the renovations and so forth. But when you're going through the buildings, is there a favorite part for you that sticks out saying, I kind of like this the best?
Well, I think the picture behind me is Confederation Hall. So when you walk through the front building, the front door, and you walk up the steps, you come into Confederation Hall. Behind it is the Hall of Honor. And that Hall of Honor is leading to the Library of Canada.
Yeah.
So just that section of the building, I mean, there's other beautiful sections, but it's just mind-blowing, basically. And I think the Library of Canada is it's my favorite building in Canada.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting when you talk about, you know, what goes into these sort of the thought process just from the very beginning of looking at a structure, thinking about the structure, then bringing the camera in. All this, this generation will wonder why you've done such a beautiful book and your face isn't in all the isn't in the frame. The selfie. They won't understand. What was he there? I don't know. Does it count if we can't see our faces in the picture?
The selfie generation.
Yeah. It's like, can you imagine in the day though, if we'd gone back in the scrapbooks where you did go to Spain, you did go to England, you go to Ireland, the picture was of the cathedral, was of the castle, was of the ocean. They would look back and said, why is your face in all of these? Well, because I was there. Yeah, we know you were there. That's why you took the picture. But when you look at this, which is a piece of art. Now, by the way, so it's available now, Willie, is it? The book?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yes. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us. I think it's just, I said, I know my brother who will really appreciate this, who, as I said, is a historian, but Ottawa is close to him and he's been many, many times. But to my knowledge, I don't think there has been a book ever done like this, correct?
Well, Malik Karsh did one years ago. And there's been a couple of paperbacks, but nothing like this.
Yeah.
Right.
No, this is
nothing in the format with the square opening up. Some of the images are 11 by 22 in a book, full bleeds.
Wow, that is spectacular. Well, look, thanks so much for taking the time and joining us here this morning. I'm sure it will be a very successful book, but it's just one of these things that to be able to capture what we're so proud of in this country, the crap that we generally see on a regular basis, this will be one of those moments in time, as you said, where it slows things down, where it's simply meant to sit there and enjoy, because I'm sure you could look at each individual picture for a very long extended period of time because there's just so much going on in them. And it's something I think that we'll be very proud of as Canadians. So I really thank you for that this morning. And thank you for joining us here today.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
That is William McElligott joining us here this morning. The book, which is going to be stunning, to say the least, is available now. A Portrait of Canada's Parliament. That is ECW Press, and it is available now. And again, for anyone who enjoys architectural photography, this will go to the top of your list.